everyone, welcome to the channel. Today is September 8th, and just in case you didn't know, I had my full scoliosis fusion on July 24th and 25th. I am fused from T4 all the way to pelvis, which is basically the whole schmoly. And we've been home for, what, 2 weeks now?
Yeah,
okay.
2 weeks.
And someone that you haven't seen much on this channel so far is my husband, Larry. Say hi.
Hello.
And today I am going to ask him a few interview questions, if you will, about being a caregiver, because I know there's a lot of people out there, including myself a few months ago, that was trying to find out what exactly scoliosis surgery would be like, especially if you're of our age. I'm 57, almost 58, and what it would look like after you left the hospital. That was a really big concern for me. You know, who's going to take care of me? You know, they told me it'd take 3 months to get back to the pain level before surgery. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to be alone. I won't be able to do anything. Because before surgery, guys, I lived on the couch. So anyway, he's been taking care of me. And yes, I am looking at a phone here for our notes. So sorry if I look away. But I looked up these questions and I think they're pretty decent. We changed a few, but I wanted to kind of go over these. First one talks about pre-surgery experience. So this would be like the last, gosh, if you really want to talk about it, 8 years that I've been disabled. I had my first fusion way back in 2016. So yeah, life has just kind of gotten worse and worse every year since. So
as soon as we had to retire from truck driving is probably when we
And why did we have to retire?
Because of her back and pain.
The pain was so bad, I just couldn't bounce in the truck anymore. So I had to get off that truck. And, you know, we lived in our truck. So I don't know if y'all know this, but you can't have any kind of pain medication besides maybe Tylenol in a truck. You can't even have NyQuil if you're sick. So even if I was willing to give up my CDL and just ride with him, I still couldn't have pain medication. So yeah, we had to quit. And so we came off the road back in 2015 to see what the heck was wrong with my back. I had been diagnosed with scoliosis when I was a teenager, so I kind of figured that was the issue, but I had no idea how bad it was. I had 4 blown discs, so the doctor opted to fuse the 2 in the middle after he tried some other stuff first, of course. Fused the 2 in the middle, and for 8 years, I was in pain and never could stand up straight. And it wasn't until I finally found a surgeon that was willing to just hopefully fix the whole problem, because I just kept having issue after issue after issue. I've had probably 20 procedures or more on my back. And until this doctor, Dr. Staub in Dallas or in Plano, until he looked at my x-rays and figured out that the first fusion was done wrong. The doctor fused it straight or flat, however you want to look at it. And that's why I could never stand up straight for the last 8 years. So during my procedure, he actually had to break that fusion and reset it. So that was a scary thing. But I'm on the other side of it now. I still have quite a bit of pain, but it's surgery pain now. So I can tell a huge difference. But if you look back before surgery, not the first surgery, but this surgery, what was your initial reaction when you learned that I needed spinal surgery? And I guess you could look at either surgery, but this one was the worst, the most severe one.
Well, when I met you in the first time, it was 05. I knew you were...
we met in 04, by the way. We got married in 05.
Well, why? Whatever.
Wow.
I knew you had scoliosis, and I knew down the road you were going to need scoliosis surgery. So I knew that in the back of my mind, and so I knew it was coming, so it wasn't that big of a shock.
Did you do anything to prepare yourself emotionally and practically for the surgery?
No, I really didn't.
He's just such a happy, willy-nilly-go-lucky guy.
Yeah, she tells me all the time I don't worry about anything. She worries enough for both of us, truthfully.
Okay, so on surgery day, can you describe the day of surgery? What were your thoughts and feelings during that time? Did you have any?
Well, we had to drive to Dallas, and the day of the surgery, I got there, or we got there, and when she went in,
You weren't doing the house sit yet, by the way, if you're going to bring that up.
yes, I was.
No,
I
you
was
stayed in
still.
the hotel the
Yep,
first
that's right.
two
I was
nights.
still in the hotel.
Yeah.
So when she went in, by the time she got prepped for surgery and went to surgery, there was really nothing I could do. I mean, I sat there twiddling my thumbs basically for the first surgery, which was the short surgery. So I just basically got something to eat, went back, and stayed at the hotel.
Well, the first surgery he's talking about is when, on the first day, the doctor went in through my abdomen and on my side. And the whole goal of that surgery was to place a cage above my original fusion. My original fusion was on the L2334. And the biggest issue I had, besides just all over pain, but the worst issue that I had was that the vertebrae above my fusion was pinching a nerve that went down my left leg and was causing numbness in my foot. I mean, he could squeeze any of my three smaller toes as hard as he wanted to. And guys, he ain't a small guy, so he could really squeeze and I'd feel nothing. So the first day objective was to put a cage there to open that up. And when I woke up and could move my toes, I cried.
That was her leg pain was the result of the first fusion she had back in
2016.
2016.
Yep.
That doctor actually was the cause of her leg pains.
Well, not necessarily the cause, but he just didn't do anything to help it. My pain doctor wanted to put in a device that would have opened up the next vertebrae because we knew I had 4 blown discs, and he just fused the 2 in the middle because he told me if he did all 4 that it would just go on down, disc after disc. So we opted to do just the 2 in the middle. But the problem was is that with that one above it being gone, over time it just kept squishing more and more on the nerve. And by the time I went in for the nerve conduction test before surgery, a doctor told me, goes, if you don't get that fixed, you're going to be paralyzed on that leg within a year. So that really kicked it into high gear. I started looking seriously for a surgeon. I sent my testing all over the United States and literally had a flight booked the next week to India because Dr. Staub was going to be my last chance. So he saved us from going to India, but either way, I was going to get fixed.
Well, I looked at that first surgery you had
as a screw up,
as the cause of her leg pain because he fused it too straight.
Yeah.
And that was the first indication she started having leg pain about a month or 2
right after
the surgery. So,
yeah,
in my opinion, he caused her leg pain.
Well, and my pain doctor was going to put in that little spacer device and had no bone to connect it to where the fusion was because he had removed. I mean, it's normal procedure, but he had removed the bone.
Right.
Anyway, back to this surgery. How did you cope with the waiting period during surgery? I know the first day was only about how long? 3-4 hours.
Right.
How long was the second day? That was the
second day was the
like 8 hours. Or
long
10,
day. I was probably up at the hospital the whole day, except for when I had to go and take care of the cats.
You didn't go sit until Friday. My surgeries were on Wednesday and Thursday, and you started to sit on Friday.
Well,
what he's talking about is we had set up a couple of house sits while we were in Dallas to save money on hotel accommodations for him while I was in the hospital and afterwards in rehab or whatever. And thankfully, we were actually able to get 2 sits that lasted the whole time, which saved us a fortune. But starting on Friday is when you started taking care of the 2 little kitties.
Well, so frankly, that whole
It's all a blur.
that whole month was just, I was just constantly going. I
Yeah,
didn't really have a
seemed like
chance
it.
to have any time for myself.
So, right after my surgery, what was it like the first time you saw me after surgery?
The first time I saw you, I didn't have any expectations.
Expectations?
Yes.
Not like you hadn't been with me for the previous 20 procedures on my back.
Right. Plus, my dad was a doctor, and I'm used to it. Not actually going to see patients after surgery or anything, but I'm used to
The whole
him
process.
talking about it and all the process going through it. And I mean, the conversations we used to have when I was a kid over dinner would make a lot of people throw up. But so I guess that prepared me probably the most, and that's probably why I don't get
squeamish
and anxious and worry about stuff like that too much.
Probably. Okay, the next question is, how did you manage the transition for me from the hospital to the nursing home that I went to, which, by the way, was supposed to be a rehabilitation facility, but thank you, Medicare, they wouldn't pay for it. So I ended up at a skilled nursing facility, and y'all have already seen a video about that one.
That place was a joke.
Yeah. But by then you were on the house sit that you stayed on for so long.
Right.
So the plus, it was 5 minutes from there.
Thank goodness for that. I mean, I was pretty much settled
in a routine.
Into a routine in Plano. So I could spend most of my time at the facility with her. And thank goodness I had the time.
It was pretty sad when I could text him to come help me at the same time or after I'd pushed the button for the nurse, 10 or 15 minutes later, and he could get there first. That's just sad.
I will say that is the most important, not the most important part of the surgery, but I can't imagine going from the hospital to your house, especially if your house is not ADA appliant.
Yeah, when we bought this house back in 2020, we remodeled the whole house with the expectation that I would be in a wheelchair because we just knew that was going to happen. So our whole house is ADA. I mean, there's handicap, everything. However, our bed, which I've showed you guys, it's a Sleep Number mattress on a hospital mattress, but it doesn't raise up and down. The headboard comes up, feet part raise up, but the whole thing doesn't raise. And I would say that that's probably the biggest plus of going to that nursing facility was the bed, because I wasn't able to get up out of the bed 100% by myself yet. Of course, I've demonstrated to y'all the whole log roll thing, and standing is very hard, especially in the beginning. Y'all got to remember, I had 3 incisions, so I was sore everywhere. But we were able to raise the bed up almost to standing, where I didn't have to lift myself as far. So that was a huge thing. And if you don't have that at home, you need to have somebody with some big muscles to help you out of bed, because I don't think I could have got out of bed by myself then. There's still times he has to help me out of the chair. So a lot of times he has to help me. But that's I would say that was probably the biggest plus of going to that so-called skilled nursing facility. And the PT that I received and the occupational therapy, those were monumental, because the occupational therapist, she taught me how to get dressed all over again. Who would have thought 57 years old I'd have learned how to do that?
We knew that we were in Dallas and we lived in Lubbock, and that's an 8-hour drive.
Well, 5-hour actual drive time, but it took us like 8 to get home.
But between all the stops. But going into it, we didn't know if we had to fly her back to Lubbock or she could drive back to Lubbock. So we told them to teach her how to get in and out of the car.
Right.
I mean, that's very important. Even if she had to fly to Lubbock, she still had to get in a car
Yeah, you
to
don't
go
just
to the
hop in the way you
to
think.
the airport.
Right.
I mean, that's just
Yeah, and that's something, I remember back when I had my first fusion learning that, but over the 8 years I haven't used that. You're supposed to back up to the car and sit down first and then get your head in, which by the way, I'm so tall, I barely cleared the corner of our door. And then you're supposed to like lift yourself around to stay, the same. I think we've showed you that in a video before. But that's a big thing. And that's something that it was something that I really got out of that nursing home because if I
right.
hadn't gone there, I wouldn't have learned how to do that correctly. And Lord knows I did plenty enough that was scary that I screwed up my surgery, that would have been even worse. But
Yeah.
okay, so what was the transition like going from the skilled nursing facility to the home where you were pet sitting at?
Well, first of all, I think she got a whole lot better care at the place we were staying because I was responsible for it. When she was at the nursing center, she would push that button, and maybe in hour and a half, 2 hours,
Maybe not quite that long, but it was at
they
least
would
20 to 30
they
minutes
would
sometimes.
finally respond to her.
Yeah.
It was not a good.
The
No,
whole
it was not a
situation
good
kind
thing.
of sucked. But the one thing that was bad when I did go there was the bed, because when we
Right.
first got there, the house that he was sitting at had two extra beds, and I knew I didn't want to sleep in the same bed with him because I didn't want to wake him up all night. And I knew that if my back was hurting, I'd want to get up, or if I had to go to the bathroom or whatever, and I didn't want to be waking him up. And the rooms were close enough that if I needed him, and he's a really light sleeper, I could have hollered and he'd be there. So I slept in the room that was closest to the bathroom. And that first night, well, first I laid down on the bed and I thought, yeah, this will be fine. But I didn't lay there very long either, and I wasn't in the bed. I just laid on top. Well, then when we went to bed, of course, then I'm in the bed, and it was one of those foam Tempur-Pedic mattresses or whatever that most people love that you can't lay on if you got a bad back. And it wasn't very long that I was like, nope, this is hurting. And I could tell that the bed was a little sloped on one side. So I thought, maybe the other side would be better. So being so smart, I thought I'd get up and go lay on the other side. So I try to get up, and it's a slip floor, it's a wood floor, and I'm slipping because I just have socks on. So it took me forever, one, to just get up. And then when I got up and I tried to go around to the other side, there's like this much room between the bed and the wall. And I'm trying to wiggle in there, and I'm not a small person. So yeah, I slipped, and that's when I posted the video that I thought I had really hurt something, and why I went to the doctor the next day to get checked, and they did another X-ray to reassure me I was okay. But guys, I cried that whole next day. I mean, just off and on all day long. It just hurt so bad.
Well,
but to fix that problem, the people had a whole bunch of quilts. We just layered on the quilts to make it a hard bed. And I don't know how many we put down. It was probably just about all of them, but I slept pretty decent after that. I mean, not comfortably, obviously. I was recovering from spinal surgery, but decent. And he found a rug that had enough rubber on the bottom so it wouldn't move, so I could get up without slipping and sliding trying to get out of the bed. And so that was the biggest transition, I would think, from the nursing home to the house sit.
Yeah.
And the house that he was sitting in too, the original part of the home anyway, was kind of in a circle. So that was my walking track. I would just make laps. And I counted the steps one time. And I remember the doctor commenting on how I needed to do between 200 and 300 steps a day. And it was 50 steps around. So I made sure I did at least 6 laps a day, because I couldn't go outside and walk because the street it was on didn't even have sidewalks. And so it was in an old area of Dallas. So a cute little house, don't get me wrong at all. The area was nice. It just didn't have sidewalks. It was just an old neighborhood. So, okay. So how do you think, what did you do to manage the transition from that house sit to coming home now?
Well, at that point, she was still trying to decide about flying or driving. We talked to the doctor, and he mentioned that flying by yourself would not be advisable.
No.
So we decided fairly quickly that she was going to
Scratch that. Yeah.
drive.
Yeah, I had
with
booked
me,
a flight home the day before we were going to drive, just in
which
case I didn't think I could make the
which
5 hour travel.
truthfully that made me feel lot better. I was worried. I would have been worried about her flying by herself the whole day until she got home.
Right.
Because if there was anything to happen, there would be nobody around to help her.
Yeah, I would have to depend 100% on airline staff.
And they're not trained in her type of situation.
There was other things that we did too. When I came home from the nursing home, while we were staying in there in the house, we went on a couple little trips, errands, whatever you want to call it, just to see how well I could ride in the car. And man, it hurt in the beginning. Whew. We quickly learned, put a pillow behind, that helped. Because today's cars, the headrest leans you forward. And if your spine is straight, you have to lean back on the seat. So it's not like you have an option to sit up and not have your head on the rest. And so I had to put a pillow there just so I wasn't like this, and I was still tilted down a little bit. So that was a little awkward, but at least we did have the pillow there. That helped a lot.
We did go the long way around. I mean, we could have done the country roads, which would have hurt a lot more.
Yeah, we took the interstate.
A lot rougher. We took the interstate, which was the long way around, but it was a lot smoother.
Right.
And she didn't have to.
When we wanted to stop.
She did not have to stop as often. Besides, there were cleaner bathrooms, I would say.
Yeah, and that was one thing I was really worried about on the way home was if I could go to, okay, y'all, I've showed y'all what I have to use, the little Tom thingies to take care of business. And, when you go the other end, it's very hard to keep things, clean things up back there. You can't see. And, we're going to get real here. When I would go and I would think I'm clean and use about, who knows how many wipies thinking that, and it comes out pretty decently clean. And then as an adult, you got to have somebody else come do a butt check to see if you're clean yet or not. And if you're not, you just hope that your caregiver is awesome enough to finish taking care of business. That was probably the most humiliating thing for me as a grown woman, to have to feel like I'm going all the way back to training days, to have, especially when I was in the hospital and in the nursing home. And let's face it, constipation can play its key roles, so you don't have to worry about that every day. But, when you finally got to go, you got to go. And to have a stranger come in and wipe you until you learn how to do it. And then when you think you've done it and they come and check and no, and I'm just like, holy crap. So I'm over here researching, how do you take care of this? Trying to figure out, what am I going to do? It's not like I can have somebody here all the time. If I got to go to the bathroom to make sure I'm not going to have a rash in a few hours, and one of the things I thought of, and I probably would have thought of it faster if my whole pain management situation happened on the toilet last spring and we got to take our trip to Europe, was a bidet. And if you're going to be having this kind of surgery, I will 110,000% tell you to get a bidet. We ordered just, what was it, $30 off Amazon? This little bidet that attaches to your existing toilet. You hook it into the water line, however you do that. And yes, it's cold, but it's okay. It's not that bad. It's not like ice shooting up your butt.
Yeah, it's room temperature.
It's nice because you can wash yourself, and then you use the wipey, see if you're clean yet. Nope. Sit back there again, wipe, wash a little bit more. And then when you think you got it all, then the person just has to make sure. And, it's a nice feeling when you finally feel confident enough that, hey, I can do this by myself now. So I don't have to have a butt check every time I go to the bathroom now. But that was a huge thing, in my opinion, was installing that bidet, because that gave me a little bit more sense of independence, because that was a very humiliating thing, and a huge thing to ask somebody else to clean poop off your butt as an adult. I mean, come on, people, that's just not something you want to ask anybody to do, much less the man who's supposed to love you and think you're beautiful and he's having to wipe your butt. It's kind of gross. But anyway,
unless you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah, we're not. Let's not get that wrong idea. Okay, which kind of brings us into the next thing, which is the daily care routine. And the question is, what were some of the most challenging aspects of daily care in the initial recovery period?
Um, well, prior to the surgery, it didn't really change all that much for me. Obviously, when she was going to the bathroom and taking a shower, I didn't have to do those things. But everything else didn't really change.
Right. And a lot of that, I think, had to do with the fact that our home was handicap accessible.
Yeah, there was
I
a
was
lot
able
of.
to do some things myself. But he had to work all day, come home, cook dinner because I couldn't stand long enough to do it. We ate a lot of heat and eat things from Sam's.
I'm still waiting for that dinner.
Yeah, well, it's getting better. At least I got my daughter living here now that cooks for us a few days a week, so that helps. But one day it'll happen because I do love to cook, and I'm hoping. How did you handle tasks like helping with mobility, managing medications, and attending follow-up appointments?
I didn't have to manage uh, your medicine.
No, that was one thing I was able to do. Obviously, when I was in the hospital, I just pretty much was only worried about pain medication and made sure I got that when I was supposed to. But eventually, when I started being a little more me, I made sure that they had kept me on my prescriptions. I'm only on 2 other prescriptions that's not pain related. And honestly, one of them's for depression that is kind of pain related because I'm hoping that when I get better, I won't be so depressed all the time because it's depressing when you sit on the couch all day, day after day. And then the other one is bladder issues that I also was hoping would get better after surgery, but the jury's still out on that one. But I made sure that they continued that one. And as far as managing the medications after the surgery, the only thing that he's really had to do is, guys, my worst thing is remembering to take my pain medication before my pain is so bad, and then it has to catch up. So if you take it when it's scheduled, you won't have as much pain. But I guess I'm a glutton for pain because I forget until it's so far that I'm like, holy crap. And as far as attending follow-up appointments, we'll be having them on telemed, so that's not too much of a deal.
I don't see how you forget your pain medication. If you're in pain, how do you forget stuff like that?
Well, the thing is, though, is you kind of live with the pain, and then when it gets so bad, because you should have already taken your medicine, because you can't take it just all the time you're in pain. You'd be popping pills all day long, and so you just learn to live with a certain level, and then when it gets so high, you're like, crap, I didn't take my pain medicine to bring it back down to something that you might can live with. But anyway, so the next thing is emotional impact. How has this experience affected you emotionally? Has it?
No, not really.
You're such a carefree guy.
Um, she tells me all the time that I don't get upset with anything, and whatever happens, I don't worry about it. Like I said, she worries enough for both of us.
I'm on this roller coaster all the time, so
I'm pretty level-headed.
which is probably required when you got the other one that's doing this all the time.
Yeah, if I tell you what, if you're very emotional and you're up and down all the time, do not be a caregiver. Truthfully, the patient needs somebody that is
level-headed.
Yeah, level-headed and not taking the emotion out of everything.
Yeah, the patient's going to have enough emotions for the both of you. You definitely need somebody a little more like him that can just let things just slide by, because there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days and there's going to be a lot of bad days. And there's days I'm like, why did I have this done? Because it hurts so bad. But I remember that, before surgery, every day was a bad day and there was no end in sight. Now I'm hopeful that there will be an end in sight. But there's still days that I get really pissed off at my body because I'm like this or whatever. And so to have one person a wreck is enough. The other person, the caregiver, definitely needs to be level headed and needs to let you vent to them, because there's days I'm so upset I just want to scream, and he just listens to it and lets it go. Doesn't ever respond other than you're going to get better. But he doesn't get mad at me because I get mad. And So it definitely helps a lot. All right.
I think
Relationship.
I think there was a second question. There was two questions to that.
No, not with that part. We're getting to it. I kind of went over these questions with him. So next one goes in relationship dynamics. How did the caregiving role affect your relationship with me?
It got us talking more. Um, Before surgery, she would get in these moods, and there was nothing that I could do about it because she'd be in pain. All she could do is take her pain medication. Um, didn't matter if she was sitting or standing. Preferably, um, she felt better sitting on the couch, doing nothing.
Or in my massage chair?
Yeah,
I
in
pretty much
her
lived
in
in
her
that
massage chair. And now, when she hurts, she can get up and walk around, and she feels better after the walk
Which is really weird.
than before the walk.
Yeah, before surgery, walking made it worse, and now after surgery, walking makes it better. So go figure.
So when she hurts, I could suggest going for a walk.
Yeah. And
I
that's helped us too because he goes for a walk with us, and I mean, with me, and look at us. Neither one of us are going to hurt by walking. So, next part of it was: were there any changes in how we communicate with each other?
we talk a lot more,
Yeah.
uh, especially when we're going out for a stroll, walking together. I mean, there's nothing else to do than talk.
There's a little quiet time, no TV
And
distractions. Or
we talk about all kinds of stuff. More about what we are going to do in the future. We were planning on traveling when I finally retire and get my Social Security, which is in 2 years.
Yeah.
And we are starting to clean out the house, get rid of all the junk and stuff.
We'll get into a little bit more of that in a little bit too. But
and I am starting to feel when she's planning these trips before surgery, I did not get all that excited about it because I don't know how many trips we planned and we've canceled because
I can only
her
think
back.
of one big one that we canceled, and that was because I lost my pain management doctor, and there was no way I could go on that trip without pain medication.
And before when she did go on these trips, she would be in so much pain we didn't really get to go out and do anything.
Yep. That last cruise we went on last January pretty much hit home for me that I wasn't going to bother going on any vacations until we got this fixed. What was the point? I was in so much pain. And then before surgery, we actually did go see our son in Georgia, and that was a painful trip too.
Yeah,
we did it.
I do. Well, you were talking about not even going and letting me go by myself
until the date. That's another thing we have for this year. We have a Southwest Companion Pass. Unfortunately, I'm the primary, so I actually booked that flight twice. I booked it once for me and him as my companion, and then I booked it a second time for just him in case I decided that I just shouldn't do it. And honestly, I don't know if I should have or shouldn't have. It was nice to see our son. Technically, it's Larry's son, but we've been married for almost 20 years, so he's mine now. I claim him. But it was a nice visit. But I felt like I was holding things back because we didn't really do anything besides just visit, which was nice. But I felt bad because I couldn't get comfortable in the bed, and I go sleep on the couch and just it was a long road, that's for sure. The surgery has definitely been a long time coming, and I'm glad I've had it. I'll say that now. I'm not in excruciating pain, but 30 minutes from now, I don't know what I'll be saying. The next section goes into challenges and sacrifices. What were the biggest challenges you faced as a caregiver?
The biggest challenge, not much.
I would say probably talking me into letting you do stuff for me, because that's my hardest thing. Letting go.
Her letting go. I mean, even today, we were cleaning out one of our rooms, and she thought she could pick up a box of glassware. Don't ask me why she thought she could pick up a box of glassware.
Well, it wasn't heavy. I did lift it up, no problem. But the thing is what I kept
It's
doing
not
was
actually picking it up. It's moving with it.
I made him put 2 boxes on my walker, and I rolled it out to the truck as he carried his 2 or 3 cases out there. And yeah, we used to sell online, so it's a lot of excess inventory that we're just donating, clean out the house
and stuff like that. And I would come home for work, and she swept the house. Don't ask me why she didn't ask.
Again, though, I feel better when I'm standing than when I'm sitting. So I almost feel like he's going to have to strap me to the wall to get a good night's sleep sometimes. So honestly, before my surgery, it would take me 3 days to sweep our house, and it's not that big. So don't think that's why. I mean, we're talking a hallway, laundry room, kitchen, living room. Okay, but I could only do 10 minutes worth maybe at a time. So it would take me like 3 days to sweep the house. And then I'd have to start mopping. By the time I got done mopping, I'd start sweeping all over again. And I was actually able to sweep the whole house all at once. And I didn't regret it later. I actually felt fine from it. So, I swept very slowly. I didn't twist or bend or anything like that. And I made my daughter pick up the dirt, but it actually felt pretty good.
But that kind of stuff is helping with your self-esteem.
Yeah, it is. Because I cannot stand the nasty house. And I don't want to ask him to clean it because he works all day. I shouldn't have to ask my daughter, but I do. And she'll do it if I ask, but if I don't ask, she won't do it. So I just hate asking for help. So anyway, do you think that you had to make any significant personal or professional sacrifices for my surgery?
The only professional sacrifice I had to make was stop driving truck.
Well, yeah.
Over the over the road, I had to we had to sell our semi. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. I mean, we had a kitchen, bathroom, the whole 9 yards.
And we love driving truck.
We were living in the vehicle, and that was probably the biggest sacrifice I had to make.
Right.
Personally,
a lot of vacations.
Yeah, vacations.
But really, I mean, we vacationed every year up until 2015. And even then, we still went on vacations every year. They just got more and more modified. It got from being able to do any kind of hiking and walking and whatever,
but up until
scuba diving only.
But up until this surgery, I felt like our vacations were pretty much over if the surgery did not work. This sitting around the TV, watching TV, getting up, going to work, coming home, fixing dinner for both of us, having a couple hours of TV time, going to bed, getting up and doing it all over again. I was thinking that was going to be my life until the surgery.
The next part talks about a support system. Did you have any help from family, friends, professionals, and how important do you think it is to have support?
The only support I think I had, I had all the support I ever needed because all I had to do is just call somebody up and complain. At that point, I don't care if it was a total stranger or if I knew them. Just somebody to complain to. The only support I really had was the doctor.
What advice would you give to other people about building a support system?
Support system is very crucial. That is why you probably need to find the most level-headed person who is willing to be the caregiver, because them really don't need the support as somebody that is up and down all the time.
Right.
That gets rattled with just about anything that comes.
Right.
Good example. our daughter. I mean, I can't think. I would not trust her to take care of us when we need to take care of.
We have two, by the way. One's going to nursing school. I think she'll be the great caregiver.
Yeah.
The other one, we'll see.
The other
she
one's
loves us to death.
The other one's scatterbrained, and sometimes she acts like a 13, 15 year
There's
old.
other times she acts right. So don't forget.
The other
they might
times,
watch this
yeah,
video.
the
We
other
love you
times
guys.
she acts like an adult.
And then there's times that she almost cares.
She's
too
just,
much.
yeah. And then there's just other times she just totally flips out.
Yeah.
I mean,
So talking about coping mechanisms, what are some strategies that you used to avoid stress and avoid burnout? To manage stress and avoid burnout.
I've never had burnout, and I don't get stressed, so that's another why you don't want somebody that gets stressed at a turn of a hat.
And I know you didn't do this, but what would you advise people to have specific activities or hobbies to help to maintain their well-being? I know you're not a hobby kind of person, but
no,
for you, you're pretty level and watching TV relaxes you or whatever. But do you think other people might need a distraction?
Yeah. Well, that's two answers in one. I would think that everybody needs something to get away from the normal, I would say. But you can't just go off and do your own thing if you're a caregiver. Right. Because you're caring for somebody else.
But you got to take care of yourself too. That's
exactly
a huge one.
Exactly. And truthfully, as much as I hate it, getting in that car, going to work, getting away from you and this house,
and
I don't have to deal with anything until I get home.
Right.
And I choose when I get home.
Yeah, he drives Uber, and the reason why he does that, guys, is because if I need him, I can call him and he's home. And that's why he started doing that. He used to do DoorDash and do better at Uber, but any of those little side gig kind of things, especially when we were in Dallas, that's one thing that really helped us, because while we were in Dallas for my surgery, he was able to work. So we didn't just go a whole month without him working, because God knows we couldn't have done that. But he was able to work. And because we were in Dallas, he makes much more money there than in Lubbock. He was able to work shorter hours, which was good, because then he could come check on me every morning before he started. Of course, take care of the dog that he was sitting and everything, take care of her first. And then would come by and see me for a little bit, see if I needed anything, get me set for the day. And then he would go to work. And then he would quit early, go back to the house, take care of the dog, take her for a walk, do whatever. And he'd stop by in the middle of the day too while he was working, and then come by and see me for a little while, watch a movie or whatever, and then go home. And, again, play with the dog, whatever. But because he had, one, a super easy dog to take care of, and that dog was amazing, and two, had, this job that he could make a lot more money doing Uber than, in Dallas than he could ever do here, he was able to work a lot less hours. Sorry guys, we had to start the video over again because I got too many text messages. So we are on looking forward. Has this experience changed your outlook on life or future plans?
Yes. Before surgery, I didn't think we had much of a future. This was our future, was probably sitting on the couch watching TV, because that's all you could probably do.
Yeah, everything else.
And unless I wanted to go travel by myself, we weren't going to go anywhere. And I wasn't willing to do that. And now we are actually getting ready to plan a vacation overseas. I actually are starting to feel like we can actually go travel without having to take the walker or just not go anywhere, because you're you're having a bad day. So yeah, I feel more confident that we're going to have actually a future when I actually retire.
What advice would you give to other caregivers in similar situations?
Let's see.
As far as, looking forward and, just.
You probably need a caregiver that is more stable, as emotionally stable as they can be, because
Yeah,
you do not need a caregiver that is happy one day, sad the next, or
like the
just
tree.
don't feel like doing anything one day
Yeah.
or getting out of bed. Because as a patient, if you need something, the caregiver has to do it no matter if they feel like it or not.
Right.
I mean, it's like raising a child. I mean, you
Thanks.
you have to do certain things
Yeah.
for your child, and as a caregiver, you have to do certain things for your patient. Uh, there's no other way around it, and you can't have a caregiver that's having a bad day.
Right.
I mean, they have to do it if they have a bad day or not. So you probably need one that is level-headed and pretty much can deal with just about anything with the same emotion as they won the Super Bowl versus they lost the Super Bowl. That's pretty much it.
And the last section is called reflections. If you could go back, would you do anything differently in your approach to caregiving?
I would not, personally, I would not do anything different because I already knew, I was already taking care of you, and I was already prepared for that
Right.
situation. What I would suggest anybody doing is, if they can afford it, getting your house or wherever you're staying ADA compliant, whatever. You know what I meant.
Yeah, they might not have.
The biggest thing that we've ever did was, when we first got home, is installed a bidet on our toilet.
And that's been a huge
And
thing.
we got that sucker at Amazon for 30,
Yeah, like
30
bucks,
40
something like
bucks.
that. Yeah.
We'll send a link down below, but that is a game changer. I mean, I cannot see
You're not
you
having to
do it.
wipe poop anymore.
That, and
And I don't
it
have
would
to
make
have it done either.
it would make her emotion so much better, because
I could do it myself.
you could do it yourself,
Yeah.
and you're not, I would say you're not embarrassed, but
Well, yeah.
I mean, you
right.
do not, you anybody does not want somebody else wiping their behind.
No.
No. Most people don't want to do that for other people, and vice versa. They don't want other people doing that for themselves unless they're a sicko. But
Yeah.
anyway, that is probably the biggest thing I would suggest, is getting a bidet in your bathroom.
So, what's been the most rewarding aspect of being a caregiver for me? Anything?
Nothing really comes to mind.
That wasn't rewarding.
She knows I would do anything if she asked, no matter if she was in this situation or not. The biggest thing for me, the most exciting thing for me, is knowing that she'll be up walking around, not having to depend on a walker, and we can go travel whenever or wherever we want without having her have a pain day that she's crippled on the couch.
Yeah, it probably won't ever be like 100% pain free, but I'm hoping for Tylenol taking care of pain.
Yeah,
Levels.
she won't be running marathons or anything
No.
like that.
No.
But
If I can just get around, go see what we want to see.
I mean, at this point, I'm excited that she is maybe not willing. She's actually wanting to actually go out for dinner and not bring it home because her chair is more comfortable at home than at the restaurants.
And that took a lot because I am not one that if I'm going to go out to eat, I want to eat it there and let them clean it up. But my pain got so bad that
exactly
I didn't want to go. I was like, what's the point?
I mean, isn't that when you go out to eat, isn't that why you pay so much, is for them to clean up your mess? I mean, what else would you be paying for?
Exactly.
I mean, you could go to the grocery store and buy the same type of food, fix it yourself, and clean up your own mess, and it's cheaper. Or you could go out to eat and have them cook it and them clean it up. That's what you're paying for, is the service. So going out to eat, bringing it home to eat so you can clean it up, that's just oxymoron to me.
But it wasn't very enjoyable. And even today we stopped by and got lunch somewhere, and we were going to pick it up and bring it home. And as we were walking out, I thought, I think I feel all right to sit here for a little bit and eat. Now, we didn't sit very long, and I was in a little bit more pain when we did leave, but we did sit there and eat. And we went out to eat a couple weeks ago with my daughter and my grandson, and I'll tell you, by the time we left, my back was really hurting. So sitting in a straight up chair where I can't really lean back, it is painful, but it's getting better. So every day's a little better. Hey guys, today I walked all the way around the elementary school across the street. And that's a huge. It's not just your average everyday block. It's huge. I had to stop a few times, sit down, rest. My walker has a good seat on it where I can sit down and rest. But I pushed it a little too far, too fast, because my legs have been super sore all day. Because 6 months before surgery, I did nothing. The farthest I walked was from the couch to the bathroom, and that was it. To bed. I couldn't do anything. If I did any more than that, my leg would hurt. It was hard to go visit mom. She's in a senior living place, kind of like a big apartment building. And by the time I would walk from my car into the building up to her apartment and get to her apartment, my leg would be hurting so bad. It got to where I had her meeting me down in the courtyard area, or out front if it was too hot where there was shade, or even down in the little reception area to visit with her because I couldn't walk all the way up there. It was just too hard. And last weekend she had to come see me because I'm not allowed to drive yet, but she did, and that was nice this year. But kind of getting off track. This was all about the caregiver this time. So guys, I want to thank you for joining us, and hopefully we didn't rattle on too much. And really, to sum it up from the patient's point of view, you need a caregiver that honestly cares about you, not just somebody you're throwing money at that you're going to feel embarrassed if you have to ask for something. However, on the flip side of that, I will say in the early beginnings when I was in the nursing home, I didn't mind so much making them do the dirty work, if you know what I mean, because I knew I'd never see them again. It was more embarrassing when he had to do it the first couple times. So the bidet was a huge thing. Get a bidet. Just don't even think about it. Just get one. If you're from America, guys, they know what they're doing in Europe. Okay. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks. Bye.